friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. So I don't know if it's just me starting to pay attention to high-end makeup more, or if this really is the case, but I feel like there have been so many mega hyped high-end makeup launches over the past year or so that I have really wanted to try out, or even if the product didn't launch within the last year or so, it became viral within the last year. There's been a lot of those products. Would you agree? And I was thinking about it and I realized that for every makeup category like foundation, concealer, bronzer, blush, highlight, there were two products that immediately came to mind for me that seem to have similar, if not identical, claims that were equally as well loved. So I was thinking about it and I was like, why don't I just use the same approach that I would with a dupes video where I do like split face, high end on one side, drugstore on the other, but this time high end on both sides, just high end makeup that people rave about so that we can figure out which one is actually the best. So you guessed it, me and all my self-control when it comes to beauty purchases. I took one for the team, purchased all of the products in each of these categories, and that's what we're gonna do here today, a proper split face comparison review. So let me quickly walk through the products that we will be comparing, and then we'll just dive right into it. For foundation, we have two newer launches here, the Lancome Tantidol Ultra Wear Care and Glow Foundation, and the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation. For concealer, the Kosas Revealer Concealer and the Rare Beauty Liquid Touch Brightening Concealer. For bronzer, the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer and the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. For blush, the NARS Liquid Blush and the Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Liquid Blush. For setting powder, the Dior Backstage Face and Body No Powder Powder and the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Perfector. For highlight, the Dior Backstage Glow Face Palette and the Charlotte Tilbury Multi-Glow Beautifying All Over Glow Highlighter. And finally for lips, the Makeup by Mario Lip Serum and the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip Plump. All right. Let's dive into it. All right, we are going to talk about these products in order of application. So that means we are going to start off with foundation. Again, both of these are newer launches, but I've been testing both of them out like crazy over the past month or so. So first we have the Lancome Tantidol Ultra Wear Care and Glow Foundation. This is $47 and has medium buildable coverage with a natural glow finish. Then we have the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation, which is $58 and also has medium buildable coverage with a natural soft glow finish. So as you can see, they sound nothing alike. The Lancome foundation has 30 shades and I picked up shade 230W to match my self tan. The Hourglass foundation has 32 shades and I picked up shade 8. When it comes to how both of these foundations actually feel, like in texture, there's not a major difference, but I do think that the Lancome foundation has just a little bit of a heavier, stickier feel compared to Hourglass, which is just a little bit softer and smoother. Both of these foundations are very easy to blend. I have no issues whenever I'm applying them, and I think that they have very similar amounts of coverage. If anything, I would say the Hourglass foundation has just a little bit more coverage than Lancome, but again, it's not a massive difference. I would say the biggest difference that I see in these products is the finish. I think that the Lancome finish is just a little bit wetter on the skin. It definitely looks dewier, and I think emphasizes my pores a bit more than Hourglass. Hourglass definitely still does have a glowy finish, but kind of like the product title suggests, it's more of a soft glow. It's more subtle. So Lancome, I would say, is definitely dewy. Hourglass, soft, subtle, satiny glow. Something I want to make sure I'm making note of, just so that you can keep it in mind when I'm showing you footage of me applying these products and what they look like on my skin close up, is that I do have a window only on one side of my office. I wish that it was just nice, even lighting, but unfortunately I don't have that, so I try to do the best I can to manipulate it with studio lights, but even still, I feel like when I am just staring straight ahead, looking at the camera face on, it does make one side of my face, the side that is closest to the window, appear glowier than it really is, and glowier than the other side. So that's why I turn my head completely to the side so that you can see each side of my face in more equal lighting to have a more accurate comparison. Once I set these foundations with powder, I think that they look pretty dang comparable in terms of finish and coverage, and they also wear similarly as well. By the end of the day, I feel like I can't tell that much of a difference between these two foundations. Sometimes the Lancome foundation does does just look a little bit greasier on my skin than the Hourglass foundation. But again, once they're set with the same powder, I feel like it's really similar. Oh, and the last thing I forgot to mention is that the Lancome foundation is not fragrance free. It does have added fragrance and it doesn't irritate my skin, but I don't like the smell of it. It's not something I can smell on my skin throughout the day, but while I'm applying it, it does smell very perfumey and not really in a pleasant way. And the Hourglass foundation is fragrance free. So with all of that in mind, I personally gravitate towards the Hourglass foundation more than the Lancome foundation. I think that it's absolutely beautiful. I feel like I just get more of a flawless looking finish on my skin, and it's something that works really, really well with my oily skin. But if you want to save the $11, I think Lancome is still a really nice option, especially if you're someone with dry skin and you want more of that dewy glow. So that's it for foundation. Let's move on to concealer. First, we have the Rare Beauty Liquid Touch Brightening Concealer. It's $19 and is claimed to be a lightweight hydrating concealer with medium buildable coverage and a brightening radiant finish. Then we have the Kosas Revealer Concealer, which is $28 and claimed to be a super creamy hydrating medium coverage concealer that brightens and has a radiant finish. Again, we're seeing the similarities here and why I wanted to do this video. The Rare Concealer comes in 48 shades and I picked up shade 240W. I think it's just a little bit too yellow in undertone for my skin, but I was just trying to find the closest match to Kosas, which I wasn't able to do because Kosas only has 28 shades. So I picked up shade 5.5. Again, there's not a huge difference in how these concealers actually feel in terms of texture, but if anything, I would say that the Rare Concealer has a little bit more of a lighter weight, drier touch than Kosas, which is just a little bit creamier and more moisturizing. I also think both of these concealers blend beautifully without issue and just look so nice under the eyes. I would say coverage here is pretty comparable as well, but I do think Rare offers a little bit more coverage than Kosas. Without powder, they both look really nice and luminous under the eyes without looking wet, which is something that I really like, but I always have to set my concealer with powder because I feel like they just crease no matter what on me, and once they're set with powder, they look super similar finish-wise. I would say really the biggest difference again is just the color of these two concealers because I couldn't find a perfect match. And then again, the little bit more coverage that Rare has. But obviously the real test for concealer is the wear test because a creasy concealer is a deal breaker concealer. And when I use my favorite setting powder, which is the e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder, neither of these concealers crease majorly on me. I do think that the Kosas concealer tends to settle into my lines a little bit more than the Rare concealer, which makes sense since it has a creamier feel. But what I have noticed about the Kosas concealer is that if I accidentally use too much product, it will majorly crease on me and look really, really messy and crepey under my eyes throughout the day. So just be careful with that. If you choose to purchase Kosas, a little goes a long way. You really don't want to pack on product because it'll crease like crazy, and I don't seem to have that same issue with Rare. I feel like I can build that one a little bit more without having to worry about major creasing. So when I use Kosas in that way and make sure that I'm only using a tiny bit of product, I do really love both of these concealers, and it's hard for me to pick between the two, but if I had to, I would say that Rare wins because I like that I get just a little bit more coverage with it. Next up, we have bronzer, and I would say that these two products are definitely not quite as comparable as the rest of the products in this video, but they were both highly anticipated, highly raved about bronzer launches. So I more so just wanted to see which of these performed better and looked nicer on the skin. So first we have the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. It's $30 and is supposed to be a 3-in-1 complexion balm that warms and nourishes with sheer coverage to even out skin tone. So not technically a bronzer, but that seems to be how most people love to use this product. Then we have the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer. This is $56, but it is quite a bit larger, and it is said to be a hydrating cream bronzer that blurs and adds a wash of sun-kissed color to your complexion. The Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer comes in 6 shades, and I picked up the shade Medium Dark because when I was swatching these in the store, I felt like the shade Medium just looked too light for me to use as bronzer when I have dark self-tan on, but I wish that I would have picked up the shade Medium instead because the shade Medium Dark is definitely too cool toned on me and does just look a little bit muddy. It looks more like a contour than a bronzer on me, and I just prefer the look of a warm bronzer. I actually also have a similar issue with the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. They only have 4 shades in this. I have shade medium, and while it's not as bad as the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer, I still do think it is just a little bit too ashy. I wish it was a little warmer on me. These two products do feel quite a bit different in texture. The Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer has a creamy but lightweight balmy feel. It's not sticky or waxy, but definitely feels like a soft balm, whereas the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer also has a creamy feel, but is much more dry, if that makes any sense. It does not feel balmy like the Makeup by Mario product. I think both of these products are easy to work with. I would consider both of them to be blendable, but the Makeup by Mario product does just feel easier to work with because it has that extra slip and glide that the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer does not have, since that one is drier. Like, I feel like I can just slap on the Makeup by Mario bronzer and blend it out within 2 seconds, which is really nice. And then in terms of coverage, the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer has sheer to light coverage and a really pretty glowy finish on the skin. I think that it looks absolutely beautiful for more of a natural look. The Charlotte Tilbury bronzer has significantly more pigment though. You definitely get more of that medium to full coverage true bronzer look with it, and it also has more of a natural satiny matte finish. It's not a dry matte, but it definitely doesn't really have glow in the way that the Makeup by Mario Enhancer does. And then by the end of the day, I would say that the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer definitely has more lasting power than Makeup by Mario. I do think the Makeup by Mario product still holds up well given the type of product that it is, but I wouldn't consider it to be a super long wear product. And I would say the Charlotte Tilbury one definitely has more of that lasting power. So even though both of these bronzers seem to be equally hyped up, they are definitely very different products. And the one that you purchase is really just going to depend on what kind of makeup you like to wear. If you prefer a bronzer that looks very natural and fresh and glowy on the skin, the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer will be for you. But if you prefer more of just, you know, a traditional cream bronzer that is buildable, gives you more pigment, has longer wear, and has more of that natural satin finish, Charlotte Tilbury will be for you. All right, let's move on to blush. First up, we have the NARS Liquid Blush. It's $30 and claims to be a highly pigmented liquid blush that brings a flush of natural looking color to the skin. The Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Liquid Blush is $20 and supposed to be a weightless, long-lasting liquid blush that blends and builds for a beautifully soft, healthy flush. The NARS blush comes in 5 shades, and I have the shade Orgasm, which is a warm pink with a super subtle golden shimmer. So it does not look shimmery on the cheeks, but it just gives the blush such beautiful dimension. The Rare blush comes in 11 shades in both dewy and matte finishes, and I have the shade Encourage, which is a soft neutral pink with a dewy finish. So freaking pretty. I would consider both of these blushes to be lightweight, but they do have slightly different textures. The Rare blush is a little bit creamier, and the NARS blush has more of a runny, liquidy consistency. And both of these are very pigmented, but the Rare blush is even more pigmented than NARS, and I actually think that that makes it more difficult to work with, because if you apply even just a little bit too much, you'll look like a clown, and then you have to start over or really try to pick up extra product with a damp beauty sponge. Otherwise, it just looks so intense, and it's just difficult to make it look natural if you accidentally use too much product. So if you've never tried a Rare blush, just know that the rumors about it being crazy pigmented are more true than you think they are. Just be careful. But when you don't use too much product, it is beautiful and the level of pigment is amazing. So for both of these blushes, I like to apply them to the back of my hand first, rub them out, and then pick them up with a stippling brush. That just allows me to have more control over how much pigment I'm applying to the cheeks, because then in that way I can always add more, since both of these are definitely buildable blushes. But it's easier to add than take away. So that is how I like to apply these. And then when I do, gosh, I love them. I do think that the Rare blush has a little bit more of a dewy finish than NARS, but it's not too much. It doesn't look wet and greasy on the cheeks. I think it's so beautiful. It's subtly dewy, and it's really hard to find that with cream and liquid blushes these days. So many of them just look wet on the cheeks, and I don't like the way that that looks. So I think that that's stunning. And the NARS blush has more of a natural satin finish, I would say. It still looks very healthy on the cheeks, but I wouldn't really consider it to be a dewy blush. So both of these blushes are stunning. I feel like I can't live without either of them in my collection. They're so good. It's really hard for me to decide between the two. I think ultimately it's just going to depend on which brand has a shade that you think will be the most flattering on you, that you're most drawn to, or if the slight variation in pigment and finish matters to you. And they're both definitely long wear blushes. Both of these last so long on the cheeks. So again, I don't think you can go wrong. They're amazing. I'm sorry. I know that that probably doesn't help a ton, but maybe it does, and maybe now you just want both. All right, let's move on to setting powder next. First, we have the Dior Backstage Face and Body Powder No Powder. It's $40 and claims to be a perfecting translucent powder with a blurring effect, natural radiant finish, and mattifying long wear. The Makeup by Mario Transforming Skin Perfector, not to be confused with the Enhancer, which we just talked about, is $34 and supposed to be a 3-in-1 powder to perfect, illuminate, blur, and set for a radiant glow with an airbrush effect on the skin. So the biggest difference between these two products right away is obviously that the Makeup by Mario powder has 3 different shades in it. So you can mix all of those shades together, attempt to just pick up one of them, but it is really difficult to do that because the lightest shade has the smallest amount of space, and then the next shade gets a little bigger, and then the darker shade has the most space. So in order to use this and not have it look splotchy in terms of color on the face, I think it's best used just swirled together. These powders don't feel anything like the Dior powder. Is lighter weight and has a little bit more of a dry feel than the Makeup by Mario powder, which I still wouldn't say is like a wet feeling powder. I mean, is any powder? Oh, what was that one forever ago that was supposed to feel wet on the skin? Why do I have a memory of me trying to find that in Vegas? The Becca Hydra Mist Satin Refresh Powder. Who remembers that from back in the day? Okay, so that one is like the exception, the powder that felt wet on the skin. The Makeup by Mario one does not, but it's just not as dry as Dior, and it's definitely more dense and powdery. I would say that this Dior powder kind of had a learning curve for me because I am just very used to using my e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. I will pick it up with a damp sponge for my under eye area and then use this smaller, I don't even know how to describe it, tapered powder brush for the rest of my face, and I can apply a decent amount of this and have it look really nice. But with this Dior powder, when I tried to apply it in that same way, it did not look good. It looked gray on my skin almost, like there was a gray cast. So I had to work with this several times to figure out the best way to apply it to not make it look like that on my skin. But once I did, I was like, dang, I understand the hype. It does look really beautiful. Whenever I'm wearing this, I feel like I just notice my skin more when I have makeup on, if that makes any sense. And it's confusing because I feel like it does definitely tone down the look of super dewy products, does tone down oils a little bit, but it also makes your skin look really fresh and radiant, just not super greasy. I don't really know how a powder can do that, but it somehow does that on my skin. However, I will say that this is definitely not the most mattifying powder of all time. So if you have super oily skin and that is what you're looking for, that's what's most important to you, I don't think that you'll love this. And I'd say the same type of thing for the wear of this product. On my skin, I actually think it looks really pretty by the end of the day. But again, if you have crazy oily skin and you really need a powder to mattify the look of oils, prevent your oils from coming through, this is not going to be your best bet. But I also had a learning curve with the Makeup by Mario powder because of this color gradient. I do have to be careful about how I swirl my brush in this because if I pick up too much of this dark shade, then it just darkens the look of my foundation, which is never what I'm trying to do with setting powder. So have to be careful with that. But when I get the right amount of distribution of all of these colors, it also looks really beautiful and also strangely helps to tone down the look of a really, really dewy, wet looking product while also making your skin look really radiant. I would say that this one is definitely more radiant on the skin though, gives you more of that luminous look. So because of that really radiant finish, I thought that this powder was going to be a nightmare for long wear and I would end up looking crazy greasy by the end of the day. But surprisingly, I don't with it. I think that my skin still looks nice. The only downside is that I feel like it's just not a great match for the rest of the makeup on my face. Like my bronzer and blush definitely look quite a bit faded by the end of the day whenever I wear this. And I don't think this wears well for me on my skin with concealer concealer at all. It always looks pretty creasy under my eyes if I use this as a concealer setting powder. So that's the downside. If I'm just wearing this for, I don't know, like normal wear and not extended 8+ hours, I think it looks really beautiful, but I also have to be in the mood for it because I don't always want that really radiant look. So overall, these are also both very nice powders, but quite a bit different from one another. I think that the Dior powder is just going to be more universally flattering because it's not so radiant, but if you have super dry skin and that's what you're looking for and you don't need super long wear, then I think that you would really love this one. All right, second to last, we have highlighter. First, we have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Multi Glow Highlighter, which is $45 and supposed to have a silky, soft, smooth focus that gives the illusion of glass-like fairy skin. Then we have the Dior Backstage Glow Face Palette, which is also $45 and is supposed to be an illuminating powder that gives a natural, healthy glow up to an intense luminosity. Both of these are absurdly expensive for highlight. $45 for a highlighter. That's insane. And both of these palettes come in 2 different colorways that each have 4 different shades in them. So for the Charlotte Tilbury highlight, I have the shade Pillow Talk, and for the Dior palette, I have the shade 01 Universal. But I do prefer the setup of the Dior palette over the Charlotte Tilbury palette. I like that you have more space to work with each of the shades, and you have the same amount of space for each shade. With the Charlotte Tilbury palette, you just have a smaller space because it's just that stripe. And if you really wanted to use this light white frosty shade or the purple shade, if those were your favorites, they're harder to get at because you have a much smaller amount of them than you do the middle 2 shades. So especially for $45, and now that I'm seeing it next to this Dior palette, I do feel like this needs to be set up more like this for you to really be getting that bang for your buck. All right, now let's talk about how these powders feel. I would say it's actually the same kind of idea as the setting powders, where this Dior highlight palette has more of a lightweight, drier touch, and the Charlotte Tilbury highlight has more of a soft, dense, powdery feel. This Dior highlight is unreal applied to the cheeks. It pops like glass on the skin. It can just look beaming if you want it to. It's really, really pretty and really fun. I know that super intense highlight is definitely not as trendy as it used to be, but if that's something that you like, you're gonna love that in this Dior highlighter. The Charlotte Tilbury highlighter definitely has more of a soft, diffused, natural look. You can still build it up to be more of a popping highlight, but compared to Dior, definitely not as much as that. So even though these are both so expensive, I do love both. It just really depends on what I'm in the mood for. If I want something softer and more subtle than the Dior option, then I'll go for Charlotte Tilbury because I just love the shades mixed together. It's so pretty, and I do feel like it makes me have fairy skin. But if I want something brighter, then Dior is what I reach for every time, and I really am obsessed with the shade that I get with this one too. When I mix these 3 colors together, oh my god, stunning. All right, let's wrap up with lips. First, we have the Makeup by Mario Moisture Glow Lip Serum, which is $22 and supposed to be a hydrating, melting, glossy balm to plump lips in a dewy-like shine. Then we have the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip Plump. It's $21 and an all-in-one plumping balm gloss color and treatment. There are currently 12 shades available in the Makeup by Mario Lip Serum, but they are continuing to launch more shades actively, so not sure how many there will be when they are done doing that. The shade that I have for this video is Mauve Glow, and the Tarte Lip Plump has 9 shades, and I have the shade Mixed Berries. The Makeup by Mario Lip Serum has a super plush, cushy, lightweight feel. It feels really nice and conditioning on the lips, and I actually thought it was funny that they described it as a melting glossy balm because it does kind of feel like it's melting on your lips, but in a nice way. With 1 to 2 swipes, this has sheer to light coverage, but it is definitely buildable. I think that you can build it up to medium coverage if you would like to, and the finish is just really nice and glossy and juicy looking on the lips. The Tarte Lip Plump also has a soft, cushy feel, but not in the same way as Makeup by Mario because the product does feel a little bit thicker in my opinion. And it's also definitely more pigmented and I think even shinier in finish. So it has more of that medium to full coverage lip lacquer look, which I think is just a very different effect on the lips than the Makeup by Mario lip serum. So I like both of these products, but my personal favorite is the Makeup by Mario lip serum. However, if you're looking for more coverage, I would go for Tarte. And while I would not consider either of these products to be long wear, I do also think that Tarte lasts a little bit longer. So if you want longer lasting, more pigment, Tarte's for you. If you're okay with not super long wear, again, this is not either, but you know what I mean. Less longevity and you want lighter to sheer coverage, Makeup by Mario. All right, you guys, those are all of the products that I wanted to compare for today's video. So we are going to wrap up here. I really hope that you enjoyed this and found it helpful. And I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Was this style of video helpful? Would you like to see more videos like this? If so, you'll have to let me know which products you want me to compare in future videos. And if you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click on that notification bell and send my channel to a friend. Thank you for doing those things. It really helps to support me, so I appreciate it so much. Don't forget to check out my description box if you need anything from me. I will have all of these products listed and linked in order of mention if you're interested in picking anything up. I also have all of my other favorite beauty products listed and linked, merch, discount codes, you name it, it's there. All right, thank you guys for watching. I love you so much. Make sure to stay tuned for my next video because that will be up in a few days. But until then, I hope you have a great few days.